Welcome to the eCommerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top founders and experts in the e-commerce industry and take an in-depth look at the struggles and successes in growing e-commerce brands profitably.
All right, guys, Josh Chin here. I'm the host of the e-commerce Profits Podcast, where we feature top experts in the e-com industry, and we go behind the scenes of the struggles and successes of growing a brand. This episode is brought to you by Chronos.agency. If you are a direct-to-consumer e-com brand that is ready for next level growth and to unlock the optimal customer lifetime value through email marketing, Chronos is your company. We've helped hundreds of brands get over $70 million in return from email alone, and our clients get an average of 3,500% ROI from our efforts. We've worked with brands like Truly Beauty, The Udi, Elias Skin, and many more. So the next step is, if you're interested to learn more, email us at sales@chronos.agency. You can also go to chronos.agency to learn more. And today's guest that I have with me is someone really special, Ezra Firestone. Ezra is one of the pioneers in the e-com industry. He is the founder of Smart Marketer, Boom by Cindy Joseph, Be Friendly Skincare, and Zipify apps. He is a master strategist, content creator, and legendary advertiser who makes $30 million per year between all his businesses. Now, Ezra is a rare breed who is simultaneously a practitioner, creator, and educator in the e-com industry, serving the world unselfishly while profiting. Ezra is also a great friend and a mentor to many, including myself. Ezra, thank you so much for saying yes and coming on to the podcast.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me. And we did 40 million last year with you were 10 million off, but that's okay.
Just 10 mil shy.
Yeah, hey. So we had a good year. Happy to be here. Happy to talk e-commerce. I love this stuff, and I've been doing it a while. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about. You know, I don't like to talk about things where I don't know what I'm talking about. And e-commerce, marketing, product, supply chain, logistics, copywriting, advertising, all that. That's my stuff.
Beautiful. Now, Ezra, we're going to take you back a little bit, just a little bit into the past. And I know that you started making money in your first job through poker in underground clubs. How did that experience shape Ezra today?
Well, the cool thing about poker is, at least one of the fun opportunities with poker is the ability to read people and pay attention to, consistent behavioral patterns. And I feel like that skill set of being able to watch somebody and watch their behavior and then make judgments based off of that is one of the skills that you need in order to be good with dealing with employees and team members. So that was really fun. Also, poker requires a level of educated risk taking. Requires a level of willingness to put all your chips in the table when you feel like something is the right move, and also when you know it's the right move from a statistical analysis standpoint. Also relates perfectly to e-commerce and advertising, and that same skill set you need, that same willingness to trust your gut at times, willingness to take big risks at times, and ability to analyze data and make decisions based off data. And then also, if you play enough cards, you understand the grind and you understand trading time for money ultimately is never going to serve you. And so kind of forces you to, if you're paying any attention and the goal is wealth creation, to build a system that's more consistent than trading time for money, which is also, how you end up in e-commerce if you're me.
That's beautiful. And you mentioned taking a big risk and putting a ton of your chips, basically going all in on opportunities that you see that is more likely than not to succeed. When was the last time you went all in on an opportunity?
Dude, I'm constantly going all in on opportunities. It's just now I have a big enough bankroll that if I lose, I'm okay, right? I'm taking big risks all the time. I'm betting 150 grand on a particular hire, or I'm betting 300 grand on a advertising campaign, or I'm betting, right now, for example, I'm building an SMS application for e-commerce media buyers. I've spent a year of my life, so a year of work and 300 grand so far in straight development cost. And I just now have a product that's in beta. So I don't have a product I can sell yet. And I'm 300 grand and a year of work into it. I mean, that's all in, man. And I feel like you got to have that kind of commitment in order to succeed in business. You have to be willing to go all in and really see it through and invest everything you have. People ask themselves the question, what can I take out of my business? And that's the wrong question. The right question is, what can I invest in? What more can I put into it? How can I get more money to invest in? How can I take more money that it's making and put it back into it? How can I get people to help me? The question is, what more can I put in? Not what can I take out?
That's a super interesting perspective to take. And I think from my perspective, outsider's point of view, that also comes down to knowing what your strengths are and where your playing field is as a CEO, as a founder. But how do you find out what your strengths are in the first place? And how do you know that this, taking big risk and being a strategist is what I do best?
Well, strengths are interesting because they can be grown, right? When I started lifting weights 2 years ago, I couldn't do a Turkish get up with an 18-pound kettlebell. I couldn't even lift it. Now I take a 48-pound kettlebell and I can do a Turkish get up. That's 2 years of work. So you can build strengths, right? If you're curious about what are you innately good at, if you don't have a sense of it, first you should look back and see, what have I historically done well at? Have I done well at communicating? Have I done well at, what have I done well at in the past? And that'll give you some sense. And then you should ask your parents and your friends and your employees and your team members and people that know you well and say, hey, what do you think my biggest strengths are? You can get a lot of information that way too.
That's amazing. Is this an activity that you do on a regular basis, or have you come to a point where you know where your zone is and you tend to stay in your zone, or is that kind of a constant exploration?
I mean, I know what I'm good at this point. I've been in the game long enough. And my viewpoint is that all you need in life is the skill set of mastery, which is the willingness to put your attention in one area consistently over time. You pick up the instrument every day for 30 minutes, a year later, you're good at the instrument. So willpower, the willingness to move forward in the direction of your goal when it's hard and you're not good and you're bumbling around and things aren't working, but you still show up, you keep a positive attitude and you put attention on taking the next step in the direction of your goal. That's really that's what you want to be strong in. Who cares where you're naturally strong? If you can be strong in willpower and determination and consistency, you'll do fine.
I love that. And it's been, well, on hindsight, it's something that I realized that one of the best decisions that I've personally made in growing Chronos.agency, my business, is just staying on my lane and just sticking to it. And no matter what kind of better opportunities or better opportunities might come about, staying to what I am working on and just holding my craft over time, that's paid off multiple times. And but the question back to you is, how do you then stay in your lane when it comes down to building a business? There are like 10, 100 different things that demand your attention to work on. How do you make sure that you're able to work on the things?
There's three things you need to do well. You need to make sure that you continually improve your product. Make sure your product is good. People are liking it. You're taking feedback. You're iterating it. You're making it better. You're launching new products. You need to market. So you need to run ads and create ads and film videos and set up sales funnels and optimize email flows and create content and do retargeting. Okay. And you need to provide really good support. So when someone is asking questions and they're in the sales cycle, you've got live chat, you've got a phone number, you're following up, you're available when they want you, you're sending them information after they buy. Like, only focus on those three areas of the business and you'll be focusing on the right areas. And you'll know when you need help because you'll run into a roadblock or you'll realize you're in over your head and you don't know what you're doing. So you go and ask for help. You find a consultant, you find someone to help you. Your job as the business owner is to figure out what needs to be done and either do it yourself or find the right person or consultant to come in and do it for you. So I don't know if it's so much about like having attention on where you're inadequate or where you're not good at. It's having attention on, hey, what do I think I need to do? And let me check that against somebody, or let me find a mentor, a mastermind, a Facebook group. Let me check my strategy against somebody who has done this before. And if they agree it's a good strategy, okay, I'm going to go implement it. Because you don't want to be taking action in the wrong direction, because then you got to travel all the way back before you start taking action in the right direction. So create the strategy, check it with somebody who knows whether it's good or bad, and then fucking start working on it. And don't worry about the rest of it.
Beautiful. And how do you split your time between all your businesses? That's something I'm really curious about.
Well, you don't. You go deep before you go wide. You don't start doing 3 or 4 things. You do one business until it's multiple 7 figures. And then, okay, great. You can bring in a leadership team. You can bring in a COO. You can bring in an operator. Like my job is the navigator. I grew up driving on the road. I did everything. I started with no money. So I did advertising, copywriting, technology, coding, customer support, project management and operations, design, development, video editing, and then as you make money, you start saying, oh, well, let me get someone in to do my customer support. Let me get someone in to do my design. Let me pay a consultant to do my developing. You start slowly delegating the things that you can hire other people to do once you have a little bit of money. And then eventually you've got a system and a process and an infrastructure, and you're saying, okay, great. Now all I need to do is navigate this business, figure out where we need to go, figure out what strategies we should be implementing, figuring out what areas need resource and making sure they have resource. You don't actually do anything anymore. You talk to other people about what they're doing and give them strategy and advice. You go find consultants and bring them in to look over what you're doing and tell you maybe where your strategy is lacking. And so once you reach that level with the brand and you're the navigator and you're no longer driving it, now you have space to go do something else, start driving something else, and then get that to the point where you're navigating it and go do something else. So I have several brands, but I only move on to another brand once I've gotten to the navigator role and the brand is up and successful. I never try to run 2 concurrent launches of new things at one time. Don't do that.
That makes sense. And what is your daily, like day-to-day routine, if any, look like right now? What does a typical day look like for Ezra?
So the thing about routine is not the goal is the goal. And people get caught up in their routine and they're like, wow, you got to have a fucking routine. It's like, sometimes routine is good and sometimes it's not. Routine is a tool that you use to achieve your goal. Now, I tend to follow consistent routines, but the thing about routine is you're going to fall out of it. So let yourself fall out of it and have space from it and then get back into it. Right now, I have, 3 companies with 113 employees and multiple tens of millions a year in revenue. So I clearly need some structure to handle all of that. So if you look at my current structure, it's, I get up at 7:30. Actually, I get up more like 6:45. And from 6:45 to 7:45, I make some tea and maybe I write a few things down in my notebook. Maybe I write down some of my dreams. Maybe I, tinker around on the internet and play and do whatever. And then 3 days a week, that sort of 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. period, I'm doing a weightlifting routine with a personal trainer. 2 days a week, I'm running. So that sort of 8 to 9 is my time to move my body. And I do that every morning. And then 9 to 10, I make breakfast with my wife. I hang out, have fun, make her a drink. I cook a meal. We talk about our day, etc. 10 a.m. I start work. I work from 10 to 2. And that's usually I'm doing phone calls, or I'm doing phone calls, or if it's Tuesday or Thursday, I have nothing scheduled. I'm just going deep. I'm thinking about stuff. I'm looking at our 5-year vision. I'm making sure we're on track. I don't have anything scheduled Tuesdays and Thursdays. I just create. 2 p.m. I stop. I make lunch, and I break state from my heavy lifting, which I do in the morning. 2 to 3, I eat, hang out with my wife, have a meal, maybe go for a walk outside. And then 3 to 5, sometimes 3 to 6, I do a little more work, more like lesser intense stuff that requires less brain energy. And I do that 4 days a week. Sometimes I work on Fridays, sometimes I don't. 6, I stop again, I make dinner, cook a meal, put away all the technology, eat, and then spend the evening hanging with my lady and doing stuff. So that's my structure. And Parkinson's law says that work will expand to fill the time that you give it. So if you don't get really good at setting boundaries around your work life, it'll just permeate your whole world, especially given that it's digital and virtual and available to you here.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is that when you set boundaries, you realize that actually you're wasting half your work life. You're not fucking doing anything. And when you really set strong container around it, you realize you could do all the shit you were doing in half the time. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall victim to that. They feel like they need to work 8 to 12 hours a day, and they don't realize that either they're not delegating enough, or they're doing too much shit that they shouldn't be doing, or most of the time they literally could just be working less and still achieving the same results.
I think we're all guilty in some shape or form, and I think growing up, in my personal experience, working less is always frowned upon in some shape or form. But that's not necessarily, like you mentioned, that's not the goal. The goal is the goal, right? What you're achieving is the goal, not necessarily what you do.
Yeah, it's not about how much you work; it's about what you produce.
Exactly, and as much as we try to emphasize on that in our company as part of our core values, results over processes, it's just hard to execute on and keep front of mind. So appreciate that. My next question is about content marketing. So kind of shifting gears to the technical side of your business now. With content marketing, back in, I think it was 2013, in a podcast that you did with eCommerce Fuel, you mentioned that marketing is talking to people about experiences that they are having. Marketing is talking to people about experiences that they're having. Has that changed? Has your approach changed in any shape or form, given the pandemic and
So what I
everything?
do, I just do a better and better job of that. Of like what you're doing here is you're creating content that speaks to a group of people who are sharing a collective experience. E-commerce business owners who want to grow their business via better tips and strategies. You're putting
Yeah.
that content out in front of them for free with the hopes that they will find it valuable, think you're cool, and want to check out your services in case they want some of this marketing done for them. It's a great strategy. It's been working since 2011 when I started doing it, and it still works today. And now you've got, Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and Apple Podcasts and Twitter and LinkedIn and Clubhouse. You got all these ways that you can engage. You got live content, you've got pre-recorded content, you got audio content, you got video content, you got long form written articles that you can put on your blog. You got a lot of ways to do it, and I still think it's the best business model in the world. And I think it's the best time ever to be in this business model because more and more people are continuing to come online. So it's only getting more powerful.
It's awesome. Now, with what's happening in the world with COVID-19, and right now with the recent change or the recent announcement with Apple and Facebook with iOS 14 and the ATT framework, what has changed in your advertising strategy?
Nothing, man. I'm still doing the same thing that I've been doing. And I wrote a whole article. I don't want to get too deep into it. I wrote a whole article on my blog about what I think about iOS 14. So you can go check that out. But yeah, I mean, my ad strategy, if you've ever seen it, awareness, retargeting, loyalty, I kind of coined those phrases all the way back in 2015, and now they're just industry standard. But I start with a top line video ad, and I use image ad and GIF animation ads. I got long form video and short form video. I got 15-second videos. I got 3-minute videos. I got images, and I have strategies for creating the best creative. And I run those ads, and those ads usually lead to a piece of content, sometimes a long form sales page. And if you watch the video and fall out, I retarget you. If you visit the article and fall out, I retarget you. If you visit the product page and fall out, I retarget you, so on and so forth. Throughout the process, I'm trying to acquire your email address via pop-ups and stuff like that. I also have ads running that are just designed to get your email address for the folks that need a slower growth. Same audiences I'm targeting my conversion ads, I'm running email opt-in ads too, to get people on my list and warm them up over time. So I'm using a slow growth approach there. I'm targeting the same audiences I'm running conversion ads to with video views, page post engagement, catalog sales, traffic objective to be more in front of them with other objectives that are designed to just get them to see my content. So the whole ad strategy that I've been teaching forever, still running it.
It's amazing. What do you think is the reason for that not changing? Is it because of fundamentals that you stuck to for just years on end that just doesn't change no matter what happens on the algorithmic side of things?
Look, it's simple. You've got areas where you can aggregate data points. So, Facebook, Instagram, Google, whatever. So you can aggregate data points on people and build audiences. Then you got to put messages in front of those audiences that resonate with them and have them interested. You got to get them to click. And then once they've clicked, you got to get them to engage, consume, and convert. It doesn't matter where you're advertising. It doesn't matter what rules they have or what kind of ads you can run, what kind of tracking is available. That shit has been the same since I started doing this. In 2005 was search, find, buy. It was search ads. We're not talking about that. That's Amazon marketing. That's Google AdWords. That's different. But contextual advertising has been the same. And so, yeah, things change, but like the fundamentals, good solid ad creative, good solid targeting, good solid post-click optimization, that stuff stays the same. And you just have to keep doing it continually better than everybody else who's doing it. And it's not that hard if you're working at it ongoingly.
It's awesome. And you mentioned the SMS app that you have been developing over the course of the year. What is that going to look like? What are you excited about it? And when can we expect that to launch?
So it'll be launched into the Shopify App Store on probably April 1st. It's pretty sweet. It does a lot of the stuff that you're already aware of if you know of SMS, cart abandonment, text messaging, post-purchase text messaging, dynamic upsell, cross-sell via text message based on what you ordered, on-site pop-ups that open up to your text message that give you a discount. So it pops up, hey, do you want a discount? Yes, click, opens up your iMessage, allows you to text back, broadcasting to different segments, split testing and flows and automations for different segments of how they subscribed or if they abandoned the cart or whatever. Apple Business Chat, Apple Pay integrations. I got all kinds of really fun stuff. So if you know about, SMS Bump or PostScript or Attentive or some of these big players in the space right now, think of it as a competitor to them, but with my own direct response sort of flavor put on it.
Amazing. And is this going to be under the Zipify apps umbrella?
No, it's an app called Connect, Knekt, Connect, like, hey, we're connecting, and kin, KIN, family. So it's brought to you by the team that brought you Zipify, but not under the Zipify brand, if you will. And, if you're interested in beta testing it, you can email Ezra@smartmarketer.com and say, hey, I heard about Connect on Josh Chin's podcast and I want to beta it, and we'll set you up.
Gotcha. That's Ezra@smartmarketer.com for beta. Now, given all the different businesses that you have, is there a grand vision? And you spoke briefly about your 5-year vision. What does that look like? And can you speak more about that?
Well, first and foremost, my business philosophy is, number one, have fun, because you could die tomorrow. You don't fucking know, and I've had that happen where close people to me have suddenly passed away. So if you're not enjoying what you're doing, stop and find something you enjoy, because it's not worth it, no matter how much money you're making if you're miserable. And that doesn't mean you don't work hard, doesn't mean you don't grind, doesn't mean you don't put it in. It means you decide to bring some fun and enthusiasm and a positive attitude and make it joyous and have fun with it. You choose that path of you're going to have a good time. 2, make good products that truly serve the world, that serve your community, that have integrity, that you continually make better. And number 3, be profitable. If you're doing that, and in that order, I don't care how much money you made, you won the game of business. That is the game, in my opinion. So my vision is just to keep doing what I'm doing. I like what I'm doing. It's working. I'm going to keep at it. I don't really care how big it gets. Now, I also have wealth creation goals, right? I'm trying to make 100 million liquid in a bank account within 15 years. So given that I have wealth creation goals, I've got specific strategies attached to those. Now, most people think about starting a business and living off of the money that it makes. That's not how wealth is generated. True wealth is generated through asset liquidation. You don't make true wealth from a cash flow business. You make true wealth from building and then selling assets, or buying and then selling assets. That's where generational wealth comes from. You look at our parents' generation in America, they took the money from their 401ks when those existed, and they invested it in real estate. They let that real estate, an asset, they let that real estate appreciate, and 20 years, 30 years later, they sold it for a gain. That's how they created their wealth as a generation. Well, I build businesses and buy businesses, grow them, and then sell them. And so for me, in order to reach my wealth creation goals, I'm going to need to sell the assets I have, build new assets, and buy new assets, make them appreciate by growing them, and then sell them. And that's my business strategy is liquidation events of assets that I've built or bought.
Liquidation of assets. Now, I know this is a question that can be relatively difficult to kind of wrap our heads around, especially at this stage of your business. But if you had to start all over again, knowing what you know now, what's the first thing that you would do?
I would start an e-commerce business. I mean, you look at an information publishing model like Smart Marketer. Like I said, 3 pillars: product, support, marketing. Well, product with information goes out of style super quick. You have to keep it updated every 6 months. So it's kind of a nightmare to keep the product up to date. Support is hard because the people that are doing the support need to know more about the subject matter than the people buying the course. And marketing is the same for every business, but with information publishing, you're only selling to business owners, so your pool is more limited. E-commerce product is easy. It's the components the product comes in, the actual products themselves. In my case, cream, really, really nice, handmade, wonderful cream, but cream, and labels. So it's like more components, more labels, more cream, product scales. Support's really easy because, oh, by the way, you can't sell an information business because it's usually based on your persona. So it's not an asset you can sell. It's only a cash flow business. Support for e-commerce is easy because it's just questions about the product and refunds. And then marketing is great because generally with e-commerce, you got a really big audience you can sell to instead of a small audience. So I think e-commerce is the best, and they trade for high values, right? An e-commerce business is going to trade for, let's say, 4 times its yearly profit, which is a big chunk of money if you've got a decently sized business. Software is the hardest business because you're selling code, and your code base is talking to other code bases that are constantly changing. So you need front-end engineers and back-end engineers and QAs and project managers. Your support agents need to be more sophisticated than the people who are using the software. And marketing it, your pool, like my software, I'm selling to Shopify business owners. There's only 1 million of them worldwide. Let's say only half of those people are making money. And let's say only half of those people are on social media. So there's just a tiny group of people I can market to. So it's a really hard business. But software trades for a multiple of its revenue, not profit. So a software business that makes $1 million a year in revenue is going to trade for 3 or 4 times that, versus an e-commerce business that makes $1 million a year in revenue is going to sell for, 3 or 4 times the 100,000 in profit it made. So software is the most valuable asset to build if you're going to sell it.
Makes a ton of sense. Now, here's a fun one. What is the biggest challenge that you see coming up in 2021 for e-commerce marketers as a whole?
Supply chain and logistics. It's harder and harder. COVID, shutdowns, not able to get certain ingredients, not able to get certain, I think supply chain is where redundancy is going to have to be built for most brands. And I think COVID exposed that the global supply chain is really weak.
What's in that same vein? Do you see a solution, or do you see a resolution to this challenge?
Yeah, manufacture your stuff wherever you're selling it instead of overseas. Don't be manufacturing shit in China if you can avoid it. I think that makes your life a lot easier.
We are coming down to final two questions. number one, what is one thing that most people would not know about Ezra Firestone, the e-commerce marketer?
One thing most people wouldn't know. I once drank only water for 21 days.
21 days?
21 days.
How does it work?
Talk about willpower.
Yeah.
You drink only water for 21 days. You got to have a very strong will to do that. I don't recommend it, but extended water fasts are a thing that people do and can be done. And I did one. I wouldn't recommend the experience, but I did it, and it's kind of interesting.
Was it spiritual
Thing to have done?
Like the reason for it?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. It wasn't like I was going on some kind of spiritual journey. You get high enough to where you're having spiritual journeys, but that wasn't my intention going in. I was doing it because a friend of mine convinced me it was good for a good health thing to do. Turns out it's really great if you've got like some kind of serious illness, but if you're just like normally healthy, you don't need that level of intensity.
Would you do that again?
No, I would do maybe 7 to 10 days. Sure. I think that's totally reasonable. And, once every 5-10 years, do a week-long water fast or something like that. Yeah. Would I do 21 days? No.
See. All right. And final question. What are some other brands that you admire and why?
Probably the ones you already know about: Allbirds, Everlane, Jemmy, Morning Brew. They're a really good content business. I think any brand that's out there making a truly good product, doing good content marketing, telling stories, running ads, I admire them all. I look at all brands, see what they're doing. I like to see, when someone just takes off, see what they did that really resonated with their audience. Like, I'm a student of the game, man. I'm always paying attention. I do a segment on my blog called Buying Stuff and Talking About It, where I buy things and then talk about the experience. And I did Dollar Shaves Club, I did Harry's, I did Allbirds, I've done a bunch of them. They're a lot of fun, where I buy stuff from brands and then talk about what I think they did well and what I think they didn't do well. So Google on YouTube, go to YouTube and put in Buying Stuff and Talking About It.
Buying Stuff and Talking About It by Ezra Firestone.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find a bunch of episodes from me.
Gotcha. Is that on your blog as well in Smart Marketer, or is it just on YouTube?
Yeah, but the blog's not really easy to search.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, I see a couple of them. Awesome. Well, Ezra, thank you so much for joining me in this show. I hope you had a great day, and I hope you had fun. And to those of you listening, Ezra if people want to connect with you, how should they go about doing that?
You can follow me on Instagram at Ezra Firestone. That's probably the best way.
Perfect.
Or Twitter.
Ezra Firestone. Or Twitter at Ezra Firestone.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm there. I'm everywhere. Go to your favorite social network. Search for me. You'll find me.
And Clubhouse.
I'm on Clubhouse. Follow me over there. It's going down on Clubhouse.
It's a fun little app. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Ezra.
Hey, man. Happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the E-commerce Profits Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get notified of future episodes.